In the art of rhetoric, Aristotle somewhat bridged the gap between the sophist and dialectic method. As a student of Plato, he is well versed in the use of the dialectic method and rational argumentation. But he did not share Plato's dislike of rhetorica, and he wrote an extensive treatise on persuasive theory, in which rational arguments definitely played an important, but not an exclusive part. Aristotle focused on the sender aspect of communication, and he uses a simple model to explain the different stages of sending out a message. First of all, the topic of the message is determined. This is the invention stage of communication. Then the style of the message is determined. Thirdly, and finally, the message will be delivered. A politician might have a topic she wants to talk about. She will then choose her words carefully. What tone should she use? And thirdly, she will choose the manner of delivery. She might choose to publish a pamphlet or give a speech. Let's say she gives a speech. Now comes the stage of delivery. She will use her stage performance, her gestures and intonation to strengthen her message. Successful communication, which leads to persuasion, has three building blocks. Logos, ethos, pathos. Logos is the use of reason, and basically it resembles what Socrates and Plato taught. Rational arguments based on facts and logic. Our politician, for instance, might use some statistics to back up her argument. Ethos is the character, or more precisely, the perceived trustworthiness, likability and intelligence of the sender. Many persuasive arguments focus on personal traits like this. Our politician might try to convince us that we should listen to her because she is the expert on this field. Without rational backing, this is a so-called authority argument. Or she will tell her audience, "When have I ever lied to you?" thereby making a trust issue and trying to increase her own credibility. Or she will try to attack the trustworthiness of her opponents, or to gain sympathy by hugging a child in front of an audience. This has little to do with rational persuasion, but might be very effective nevertheless. Under pathos fall all other emotional appeals that try to make the audience feel something. For instance, by appealing to their fears, hopes, likes, dislikes, or sense of humor. Aristotle tells us to do this by using stories, examples, and exaggeration. Next to Aristotle, the most noteworthy classical scholar whose writings survived the ages was the Roman lawyer, senator, governor, and consul Marcus Tullius Cicero. Cicero, whose speeches and treatises have been studied throughout the ages by students of history and communication. The same speeches that gained him so much power in the Roman Republic, and allies like Octavian, who later became the first emperor of Rome. They also gained him dangerous enemies, like the general Mark Antony. And in the end, it was this enmity that caused his decapitation during the Roman Civil War. His powers of communication had been such a thorn in his enemies' eyes that killing him wasn't enough. When his head was displayed in Rome, they stuck needles in his tongue to punish it for all the harm it had done. You can pick up recent translations of Cicero's books, like De Inventione, on the invention stage of communication, De Oratore, about the delivery, or the popular handbook Rhetorica ad Herennium, in most bookshops today. And recognize that even though it's written 2 millennia ago, most of the theories are still applicable today. An anecdote about Cicero, for instance, tells us that he would sometimes purposely drop his papers while walking to the speeching area. His audience then would feel sympathy, because this accident could also happen to them. He seemed more human and fallible, and therefore more likable to them. It was little tricks like this that made him such a good orator. So rhetorical theory combined larger meta-models on communication with smaller practical tips on how to achieve these goals, how to seem right or believable, nice, intelligent, etc. In short, there was a lively academic and widely practiced communication science in the classical world. As years went by and the Roman Empire collapsed into the dark Middle Ages, these ideas all but disappeared into the cellars of monasteries and libraries of Eastern scholars, if they survived at all.